and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining me on tonight's episode is Freddie Morris, Vice President of Digital Marketing and Strategy at Rock Nation. Prior to joining the team at Rock Nation, Freddie worked for 300 Elektra Entertainment, collaborating with artists such as Young Thug, Gunna, Maria Becerra, Waterparks, Snot, Barnes Courtney, Highly Suspect, and plenty of others, serving as their digital and social strategist on album, tour, brand, music video, and marketing campaigns. Before that, he worked at Full Stop Management, working alongside artists like Maroon 5, Robin Thicke, Anita, Miguel, ASAP Rocky, and more. So, Freddie, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to get started, but first, tell us, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been at Rock Nation for close to 4 months. Exciting project all around, and really looking forward to what the rest of the year and next year has in store.
All right, are you ready for your first question?
Yes.
Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give him on a personal note, and what one piece of advice would you give him from a business perspective?
Personal note, I would definitely tell him that things are just going to get a lot better, but also crazier in terms of work. When I was 25, I was rushed to a job at Century Media Records running a digital department where I had very minimal digital experience other than running MySpace pages. And so I was tasked with just running a digital sales and marketing department. And it was, as a 25-year-old, felt so overwhelming. And me personally, I was just like, things are just going to get better. But, it was just a lot in the first 3 months to like really grasp a job that I literally had never had before. Then professionally, I would just tell myself, just like, ease into things. I think that's the one thing, is that things take time. Not every job is going to be a home run the first month. It's going to take like a few months to get acclimated with the culture of each place you're at and the people that are there and how things are run. So I would just say, just be patient, take your time, and things will always pan out.
So, before we get into the next question, a part of your background includes pairing artists with brands, putting together events, and really elevating those
Mm-hmm.
partnerships. For those listening that might not be familiar with what a typical brand collaboration entails, can you share a bit about how you determine the right brand for an artist? And then, what are some of the lessons that you've kind of learned along the way by delving into the brand partnership space?
Yeah, there's been a lot of opportunities I've had just across years, whether it's working on a TV show and working with the brand teams there, working events like the Super Bowl, working events that I personally like put on with like Miguel. We worked with a huge team to put on this amazing event called the Wild Heart Motel. This is like years ago, and then most recently, during COVID, I had to put on a album release event in a parking lot for band Waterparks. I feel like that was a task, just getting brands involved, especially during a time where not everyone wanted to be seen that they're outside. And having like 1,000 fans in a parking lot with everybody masked on, and it's just I think you go into these things like understanding that some brands will work for some brands will, so I don't want to pitch, I don't want to bring a band like a pop punk band to Gucci versus like Miguel would obviously be something that I would be comfortable working with a brand team to like pitch for something. I think it's just understanding what brand works with what artists, and sometimes art brands will throw curveballs and want an artist that you wouldn't think. Um, and so I think it's just finding that fine line between that.
Mhm. Very insightful. Next question. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and you and I both know that's no different in the music industry. Sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. So, what's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the industry?
Honestly, not, I would say, like, especially working in social media, not everything seems to be what it is. I mean, I worked on The Voice, and
Wow.
that was I worked on that for 12 seasons. And everybody thinks they know how it works, but there's so much nuances that goes into like production of the skits that are pre-taped and all the stuff that goes live. I think the dirty, I wouldn't say it's a dirty secret, but it's just not everything is what it seems on social media than what it is in real life. People, there's always somebody there. Every team has somebody like me behind the curtain doing posts for them. And so when people call people out online, sometimes it's someone like me who's just like made a mistake, or if I said something that was approved that was like not supposed to, like, stuff like that. I feel like when artists get a lot of flack online, a lot of people aren't realizing it might not even be them posting for them. And so I think that's one little, so in social media specifically, that I think a lot of fans of artists don't know. I feel like they get it. I feel like they have to know that like artists sometimes don't have time and they'll hire teams or their management team will do it. But I feel like that's definitely one secret that I feel like should a lot of people should know.
Final question. Throughout your career, you've been asked plenty of questions, whether it was for an industry conference, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, there has to be one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So, what is that question and what would be your answer?
That's a very insightful question, Rachel. I would say a question no one really has asked me is like, actually nobody's asked me how the process of like some of from A to B, like how a success happens, what's successful to you versus what's successful to the public. There's been a lot of times to me that a lot of projects I've done have not gone, I guess, quote unquote, viral, on the behest of the artist, but like a lot of stuff I'm so proud of. And I think though that's the question a lot of social media managers aren't asked, because they're viewed on the success of what's going viral. Like I worked a couple of Maroon 5 videos that have 3 to 4 billion views. And those are some of the funnest project work, because obviously I can showcase that. I can I can show my mom, look, mom, this is what I did. But some of the stuff that like a lot of people don't know, like some of the smaller artists I work with that I felt was such a success to them because they were so happy about it, and I felt so proud of it. To me, is like one of the things that never been asked to me is like, is there a project that like didn't go viral, but like you felt like it was a mass success? And yes, there's quite a few. Um, and working with some up and coming artists who like their streams went up 500% versus their last song, and it might not be you know be Beyonce level like streams, but to them, 1 million streams in a month is massive versus like you're working with artists that need 1 million streams a day. I think the varying levels of success in the industry should be valued on how an artist feels about it, because not every artist is going to treat 1 million streams the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific artist or campaign in mind when you're thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give. I just gave the probably the most successful one I worked on, and then I'll give like I would say the success in terms like Waterpark's last album. Sorry, we did this crazy art gallery. We put it together in like 3 weeks. Me and like their management team, their creative director, the label went through it, and I was like running production. And I've never run production before, but they tasked me with the job because this is during Warner had just purchased 300. I moved to Elektra, so there was just like a really gray area of who's working the project. So I was like product managing and also did like the head of digital for it for the project. So I kind of took it upon myself because I had, when I say production experience, I mean I've been on production sets, but I was never a production manager. But I was the one wrangling all the budgets, wrangling, making sure things are, we are hiring the right people. We had a creative director who's the band's creative director to help get their video director involved and all this stuff. And we created this huge art gallery. And the success that we had was the band had never had a top 10 record, and they had a top 10 record in the UK. And I feel like to me, that's a massive success for a band that never, I think at that time, it never gone higher than like 35. And for them, they were like so stoked. They were happy. I was, working with the UK team to make sure we made that happen. And I think that was just like a whole team effort. And, you know, that to them, that was such a massive success. And the fans, we had like, I would say 600 fans at this event. They lined up for hours kind of thing. And to me, that was massive. That was a great turnout. Especially when the previous record, we did a whole thing. I think I just already mentioned, but we did something in the parking lot in off Melrose during COVID. And it was really tough to do. But this is like an experiential experience where we could actually get close to fans and be inside of an area and create this unique experience that was the theme of the record and all this stuff. So I find that to be very successful because not all the times you get an artist to be stoked about something, and it might not make the news, but it made them happy. That's how I view it.
Yeah, that's a great question and a great answer and a great story.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it is about time we close out tonight's episode. Freddie, thanks again for joining me. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
To everyone listening, hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next week of 3Q, where we interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.